Welcome to Spine Checkers Transmissions with Dr. Jeremy Brook. High-vibing, vitalistic wisdom to help you align, connect, and energize. Let's go. Spine check, 1, 2. Welcome to a mind-expanding journey through the intriguing world of the sixth sense, proprioception, where these sensory receptors embedded within our innately intelligent bodies have the potential to light you up to high vibing levels. Now we're going to unravel the secrets behind why proper motion of the spine and postural alignment are vital for optimal brain function and overall health, and how poor biomechanics can affect your brain and send you into a sympathetic, stress-dominant physiology. Because let's face it, we all need a brain that's sharp and a body that stands strong against the tests of time. Just like an ox, yet flexible like a young, agile chimpanzee gliding through the trees. And on an energetic level, who wouldn't want their subtle energy body, their nerve channels, their meridians, and their chakras fully lit up with vitality and life force? We need to be able to handle the friction of life, the grind, the pull, and the stress. So if you're watching this video on YouTube, first of all, assume like the strongest, most aligned, connected, and energized spinal configuration you can possibly muster. Get rid of that text neck and that big old hump in the upper back that you're creating from dropping your head forward and caving in your chest. Align yourself with gravitational forces so it doesn't interfere with the transmission of your life force. And if you've been following along with this podcast since the beginning, we're actually on like episode 4 if you count the intro, you know that things got somewhat abstractly intense in the subtle energy universe, purposefully done, because what I'm trying to do is set up a conversation with you on like how to recover your health, optimize your health, and then maintain it so you're primed for some peak moments and experiences. Now, if you're unaware of the terrain of the body and how to activate it, you may stay stuck. No growth, no evolution, and you're struggling in pain. So if you learn how to tune your body, perhaps, maybe you'll discover that there's actually a fountain of youth or a reservoir of elixirs that will give you your youthful glow. So we're going to shift gears and dive into some more fascinating ideas about the human body from a neurological standpoint, like neurospinal, neuroskeletal, if you will. But before we immerse ourselves in the wonders of proprioception, let's just take a moment to grasp its essence. You see, proprioception is the ultimate sensory GPS that gives us real-time feedback on our body's position and orientation as we move through space and time without relying on our eyes. It's the silent conductor that guides our movements and keeps us connected to our physical self. It's the secret thread that weaves the fabric of our sensory experience, connecting our physical being to the boundless universe. And these proprioceptors are the monitors of our inner world, and the body's like literally cloaked with these specialized receptors that send their movement and alignment signals to the wisdom of the cerebellum, the conductor of balance and coordination, ensuring that our movements flow like a jaguar gliding through the Amazonian jungle. The cerebellum, they call it the little brain, allows for a symphony of coordination. It's the little brain that actually runs the bigger brain, like your cerebral cortex. Now, the cerebellum, which sits back here with its highly organized grid-like architecture of cells, makes up only about 10% of the human brain's mass, but it contains more than half of its neurons. Stretched out, the cerebellum's surface area would nearly be 80% that of the cerebral cortex. Now, nestled at the back of our mind stage, it receives sensory input from the proprioceptors and even hears the whisper warnings of the nociceptors. More on those guys in a moment. Now, the cerebellum, in turn, fine-tunes our movements with divine precision, conducting an exquisite ballet of balance and grace, ensuring the seamless execution of our every gesture. When our movement or alignment is good, you have healthy, nourishing signals flooding into your cerebellum, specifically the vermis, and you are rewarded with divine proprioception. So think of proprioception like a nutrient for your brain. Yeah, like movement stimulates these receptors that send signals that travel to the cerebellum that deals with coordinating your movements, but also your thoughts, your feelings, as well as your immune organs. So as we move through space, proprioceptors sense the subtle shifts in muscle length, joint angles, compression, and tension. And if these movements are good, and we're not talking like subjectively based on a specific movement discipline's dogmatic preferences, I mean, the intelligence of the body likes it. You're firing off these signals that will light up the brain like an arcade game. Now, this is the fascinating part, at least I think. So with regards to the proprioceptors, they're not evenly distributed throughout the body. Although these specialized nerve sensors are found throughout the musculoskeletal system, like in every skeletal muscle and in every ligament, joint capsule, and articular connective tissue, they thrive in three essential areas: your feet, your pelvis, and the upper cervical spines. Now, we're going to be diving into the feet and barefoot and footwear universe, as well as like nail boards that you can stand on that serves as a mind-blowing acupressure tool in an upcoming podcast. And we're going to dive deep into the human pelvis. That sounded kind of weird, but everything you need to know about the sacroiliac joints that are loaded with these type of specialized receptors. But the sacroiliac joint isn't known for its wide range of movement. Like, the movements are very subtle, so small movements can go a long way. And that's why you have to be a master of movement at the level of the pelvis for proprioceptive reasons alone, especially considering some of the biggest and most dense muscles in the body attached to the pelvis. Like, you got to think about rotating your pelvis anteriorly and posteriorly and internally and externally, and funky distortions of that nature, as well as the sacrum with its cerebral spinal fluid pumping mechanism, the nutation and counter nutation. But the number one zone that's fertile with proprioception is the spine. And for the sake of this conversation, I just want to stress the importance of the mystical territory of the upper cervical spine, which has mesmerized neurologists of the bewildering concentration of proprioceptors in that area. I mean, it's right where the brain and the spinal cord connect, an area the mystics call the mouth of God, the cave of the soul. It's the center of life. It's where the wisdom of the body implanted more of these specialized type of receptors like there than any place in the body. So when stimulated, it would activate the brain like no other fiber or tissue. So the position and alignment of this area is paramount. Now check it out. The top bone is called the atlas, and the yogis say meditate on like the back part of the atlas, like right back here. They say that's where universal life energy enters the body. Others say this area is the negative pole of the third eye. And modern neuroscience has shown why the mystics were fascinated about this area, because the intelligence of the body made sure to guard this area unlike any area. It's like a proprioceptive heaven. In this neurological dance of proprioception, we find that it's not merely a nutrient for the brain, but like an energetic force that shapes our existence. The proprioceptive light show at the top of the spine tunes us into like the subtler realms, heightening our awareness of body and mind. It's like a bridge between the material and the spiritual, an enthralling journey through the landscapes of consciousness. It's where proprioception meets your life force and your prana and your chi. So spend some time in meditation at like the top part of your center of life and see what shows up for you. Like, contemplate the profound connection between the spine and the brain, like a cosmic dance of energy and information. And as we move our spine, a symphony of proprioceptive messages is sent to the cerebellum and beyond. Each twist, turn, and bend becomes a serenade of sensory feedback, nourishing the brain with vital information, and perhaps your subtle energy centers too. Like, I wonder if that information is necessary to power up and fuel the subtle energy systems like your winds, your nadis, and the energy centers. And now we're having like a conversation about prana and proprioception. Now, in the middle of this harmonious dance of proprioception, there are vigilant guardians called nociceptors that raise noxious noise pain signals when danger or misalignment occurs, reminding us to protect ourselves or change our positioning. These noxious position and pain receptors play an essential role in keeping us safe and in tune with our body and serve as a necessary reminder to nurture and care for our body temple. You see, when bones shift out of place or space causing nerve interference, we call that a subluxation, or as one of my colleagues, Dr. James Chestnut, calls it, a movement deficiency syndrome. Neurologically, things get interesting when you have a misalignment and the spine changes its movement patterns in a destructive manner. So instead of like firing off proprioceptors, nociceptors fire off, and now we're having something called nociception as the dominant signal being released. Nociception is no good. The fancy scientific term describing this neurological and biomechanical event is called disafferentation, referred to an imbalance in the afferent or incoming input such that there's like an increase in this nociceptive input and a reduction in proprioceptive input. It's a game of input. And these nociceptors send a signal to the hypothalamus anterior pituitary adrenal gland axis, setting off sympathetic fight or flight physiology. Instead of flow, now you're getting contraction, bracing, splinting, and guarding, causing the body to function in a disruptive manner because the nociceptors, or the noxious stimulation receptors, are getting activated and the stress response is triggered. Like your fight or flight is not triggered by an angry rabid dog, but instead it's from a stuck, jammed, or misaligned joint. And believe it or not, your jammed joints creates the same physiological response as being put into a fight or flight situation. Your heart rate quickens, your cardiac output increases, there's a flood of adrenaline, cortisol, and insulin, as well as a laundry list of other negative responses. And that's all from like a headstand or upward facing dog gone badly or hours slouched over a computer. Who knew? Removing irritation or noxious stimulation from your spine with a slow dose of smooth and steady movements will decrease your stress response and allow for a positive integration of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. I love yoga. Once I discovered yoga, I felt like a part of my soul's mission in life got fulfilled and activated. I spend a lot of my time in yoga thinking about making music with my proprioceptors. Let's just call it the perfection of the incoming sensory signal. So it's how I approach yoga. Super attention to set up the shape of the pose so that the energetics of the pose, like all of the micro positioning created by all of the hyper refinement cues, are there to create an energetic signal. And the energetic signal that represents the entirety of the pose gets sent to the brain and powers up the brain, and I'm rewarded by my cerebellum with copious hits of proprioception, and then whatever awesomeness that occurs on the subtle energy level. So I think about how like yoga evolved from being a secluded meditative practice in which the yogi's asana arsenal consisted of a comfortable sitting position to a complicated system of movement and breath. The yogis of old knew that if they could minimize the noxious input into and within the brain, they would be able to decrease the stress response and go deeper into their meditative states. They somehow figured this out without expensive MRIs, which is incredible. Guess what? Old school chiropractors going back to 1895 also recognized that nerve interference was detrimental to expressing one's fullest potential on a physical, chemical, mental, emotional, spiritual level. The mechanisms and pathways weren't like fully developed yet, and they're still in the process of getting charted out. And each year,
New models are surfacing as science continues to unfold the mysteries of the nervous system. But what we have discovered is that chiropractic adjustments delivered at high speed, like 0.3 seconds fast, are a secret key to restoring healthy nerve flow and proprioception. Numerous, seemingly unrelated symptoms can be generated when nociceptive input is enhanced and proprioceptive input is reduced. Evidence leads us to believe that such nociceptive input caused by subluxation complex dysfunction explains why many seemingly bizarre symptoms respond to chiropractic care. And the great news is that this is being explored deeper in the areas of psychoneuroimmunology, meaning misalignments can affect your mind and immune function and not just your body. At the present time, there are specialists devoted to the different sensory systems of the body, the visual, the auditory. We've got those covered with the EENT doctors. But as of yet, no profession other than chiropractic has effectively stepped forward with its sole role in removing noxious stress or interference to the nervous system. A high-velocity maneuver performed by your favorite chiropractor is like hitting the reset button, restoring balance and unleashing a cascade of positive effects on your body and your mind. Now, before we conclude this extraordinary journey, it's not to be forgotten that essentially man is a sensorial organism. So ponder upon these intertwined concepts: proprioception, nociception, and spinal misalignments, like yoga postures as well as chiropractic adjustments. They shape how we perceive the world and navigate through life, bridging the material, the mental, and the spiritual realms in a beautiful dance of energy and information. Now, taking it into consideration, you have all of these specialized sensory receptors cloaking your body, and as you move through space and time in a very thoughtful and potentially sophisticated manner, like your body is a code, and you're accessing the codes within your body to experience the riches of the body. And by firing off these proprioceptors, you're going to bathe your body with healthy signals that light up your brain centers, that reward you with healthy and coordinated and refined movements. But it also helps your mind function and your immune function in a magnificent way. You're not in pain, well, maybe not as much, and there's more ease and flow in your life. And I think that's a worthwhile exploration. Who thought you would have a relationship with the sensors in your body through like the bones in your muscles? You know, like people go to the gym for like a good pump. In the future, I see classes choreographed to activate their proprioceptors. And that's one of the focuses at the Life Center Chiropractic in West Los Angeles. That's my home base, right? So if we can continue to evolve mentally, physically, and spiritually, then maybe we can usher in a new revolution, a revolution that attempts to minimize comorbidities and maximizes high sustained levels of health, healing, and wholeness. Hey, thank you for joining me on this spine-bending, proprioceptive, sixth sense voyage. Remember, your sensory system is a wonder that deserves our awe and appreciation. Keep staying curious, excited, and always open to the extraordinary experiences life offers. Until next time, peace.